Okay, everybody, welcome to the Clutch Burners podcast. Everything you need to know about jumping that clutch and making that car survive on the road, on the racetrack. And we're here today with Adam Dorey and bank shift Billy Armstrong and the Canadian Chuck Norris, Mr. Rich Guido.
That is fantastic, Adam. What an intro. Wow. Are you an announcer or something?
Well, I just recently became a professional announcer because I don't have another job anymore. So here we go. Yes, I'm an announcer and apparently a professional one.
That is fantastic.
Why don't you tell us how that phone call went when they called you up and said, we're going to sever the golden handcuffs. You no longer work for us after how many years?
I was there for 12 years total. Going on 13. And 10 years of that, 10 now going on 11, full time. I did a little bit of part time when I was finishing my degree. But I've been in the industry since I was 18. So I've just been doing, and it's landscape and irrigation supply. It's boring.
But you were finishing your announcing degree, is that what it was?
No, actually, I have a degree in English with a secondary or a minor in secondary education. So I should be a middle school or high school English teacher.
Really?
Think of all the young people you would have ruined by now.
Yeah, and actually, that was kind of the initial part of my kind of public speaking. I almost failed public speaking. I got under a C in public speaking, and I had to take the class again.
Oh, wow.
So, the second time I took it, I got an A, which was great. But I announced at a racetrack in between those two stints. So, you want to get good at public speaking, and even if you're in the smack dab middle of Wyoming, you announce race cars all day, all weekend.
That would have been Douglas, right?
That was Douglas. Yep. And a couple of my buddies were running Douglas, and the manager who typically did the announcing couldn't. His wife got cancer, so he was like, I have to take care of her, but I need someone that I can trust up there. So I think you're maybe the guy. And I didn't at the time know anything about announcing other than listening to it while I raced. And I luckily had like one of the best. Bruce Kamada was the announcer at Vandermeer for years and years and years. And rest in peace, he's passed now. But I grew up listening to that guy and talk about me and my friends, and it was that dude was the pinnacle at the time for me. Plus, growing up and watching Saturday morning drag racing, and it was it was Diamond P Motorsports and those guys. And they were kind of the over-the-top announcers, like you'll pay for the whole seat, but you only need the edge kind of guy. And then Bob Fry.
Wait, there's more.
Exactly. Sunday, here we are. So yeah, man, it was just sort of a thing, and it really became the crux of my announcing. It was these are my friends. You guys are my friends. Like, it's the most fun keeping up with your antics, A, so I can tell the world about them, because, that's just how it works. And then B, I can keep up with your cars, and on top of that, like I said, we're buddies. So how cool is it to be able to talk with your buddies about doing the cool thing that they like to do the most? It's such a symbiotic thing to be able to be fans of my friends and tell the world how cool they are.
Well, I'll flip that the other way though too. Like when it's a good announcer like you or Derek, and you guys have all those details, and you listen. I hear you guys rattling them all off. That just makes the whole event so much cooler. Like typical YouTube, right? Another drag and drive video pops up, so I start listening to it, and every time I'm up there, Derek's the Canadian Chuck Norris, and it's got all the details, and that's pretty. And then you look in the stands, and especially Sick Week, they're packed, and all these people are here and that, and then they come and visit you, and they're like, this car drove all the way. So all those details that you guys are so good at remembering, just makes it that much cooler. So thank you
Yeah.
for that.
Well,
No, totally.
And what I find so impressive is it's not just Rich and I. It's like everybody that's up there. I don't even know how you do it because I certainly don't have the brain capacity for that. I can hardly remember somebody's name, and you're rattling off all this information continuously as the cars are coming through the lanes, and I'm just like, dude, how does he do that?
Yeah, and really it started with Rocky Mountain Race Week, and I started the little insider. It became as an insider RMRWers page, and really it was just same deal. Like here's a spot where our people can talk drag and drive, and it was not unlike and I mean fully copied from the Drag Weekers page. That's a private. You have to be in Drag Week to be in that page. To where ours was like, let's just see who gets interested in this, and it blew up and it was crazy, and now it's like its own machine. But early, it was people sharing stuff that they were doing to their cars, and I could kind of absorb that, and then years and years and years of seeing every single post on that thing. All of a sudden, oh, Race Week needs an announcer because we got a live stream. Who better to announce than this dude that's been stalking all of these people for, the last, whatever, 5 years.
Well,
So maybe
well,
before we
what I think people don't. Yeah.
go ahead.
I was just going to say what people don't realize about what you just said is you started the RMRW's page, and now it is the Rocky Mountain Race Week page. Like you just started it like on a whim or something, and it's the
Right.
page.
No, it is. It's we call it the official unofficial page. Like Matt and company don't own the page. I own the page, but it's where all of the information goes out. I mean, we're trying to not make that the first. We're trying to keep people on the website, so we're letting James and the folks at High Speed Media kind of run with it, and then I'm sharing their stuff now more. But for years and years and years, it was it was the only place that we had really that was a reliable spot for contestants / owners / stakeholders to talk and work stuff out. And I mean, even like rule changes have happened on that page real time. So yeah, it's been kind of a cool thing.
So cool.
I was gonna back you up. So what? Yeah, here, cheers, my friend. Why don't you tell us what has it been like since you found out the golden handcuffs are chopped off?
Oh,
and people reaching out to you, and tell us how that's going. I'm sure people want to know.
it's okay. So I guess backing up to your original question was what was that call like? And it was wild. Yeah, I mean, a million things went through my head with a phone call right as I was starting work on Friday on payday at the end of a pay period. And, I was like, oh, and like I just logged in. So like they knew I was logged in, and then my phone rang like the second that happened.
Oh boy.
So I was like,
and that's unusual,
hey,
right?
Oh yeah.
They don't normally call you.
I was pretty hands off, and that was maybe part of my my detriment. Unfortunately, is I wasn't maybe forthcoming with like, hey, here's what I'm doing, because I just figured they assumed I was working. Who knows? Whatever. But either way, it was kind of like a loud what, and like, oh, okay, how do you want me to get your shit back to you? And that was it.
Wow.
And I freaked out for about 15 minutes, and I just ran through my budget real quick and took out my paycheck, and I was like, well, I can make it, but like barely. But that's what I have currently booked, which at the time was both of the race weeks, Rocky Mountain and Race Week. I had just finished Sick Week, so I have that money, and I haven't spent it yet, which is great. I have Mod Nationals, and which is an awesome race, by the way. In Bradenton, it's all overhead cam Ford stuff.
What Ford? Yeah, you said Ford stuff, so it is an awesome.
All overhead cam Ford stuff. Yep. and I'm way out of my element there, but I have become a fan of overhead cam forward stuff because that's right. The main reason is there a lot of those dudes are stick dudes. That's right.
Are they? Oh, I didn't know
A
that.
ton of those dudes are stick dudes. Mustang dudes they're kind of per capita. There's more stick Mustangs than there are other stuff.
Yeah.
And then if guys are doing swaps with coyotes, typically they're putting sticks behind them. So there's some really, really cool stick stuff, and they, especially naturally aspirated, run a ton of RPM, and they sound awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a couple of customers that have been down there to compete in that, and it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's a super cool race. But anyway, so I had those on the books. Luke had reached out about Six Summer, and I told him I don't think I'm going to be able to make that happen. And then got fired the next day.
No.
So I immediately called him and said, I'm in for Six Summer, so let's do that. And then I very recently did nail down the Freedom 500.
Yes.
So I'm doing that with Cletus and those cats, and then I've got in pencil. I've got the Indy 800 and the other one that he's got going for the next couple of months. So I'm really hoping that I can use the Freedom 500 as a prove it, and I can earn the other two.
Yeah.
But congratulations, Adam. Congrats.
We'll see.
That's so exciting.
Yes, it's so cool. On top of that, since yesterday, I booked the fastest streetcar shootout that the Havlicks are putting on.
Yep.
And if you don't know, that is all the old school, all steel streetcar stuff. And these are all big floppy tire with typically either nitrous or blown motors. And, they were running in the high sevens, 770 range. And at the time, Pro Stock was like 750. So, these guys were doing it in real steel, big, heavy cars. And a bunch of those guys are coming back. And they're doing a resurgence with these fastest streetcar cats. And they've got...
Like a car like Rich's.
Right. But it would have been, back in the day, a tubbed car.
Yeah.
With, the technology wasn't the same. These guys are running mechanical injection. If it was a nitrous car, it was a carbureted car. So, still like a pretty wicked car for the day. And, we're talking late 80s into the 90s kind of cars, and in the sevens with a lot of weight. Typically they'd be full back half cars. But Tony Christensen's 57, Monty LaFrenze's 55, or Monty Brown, his 55. There's some cool stuff that's going to be at that. So I've got that knocked down. What else did
I could say in the early 90s, my car was a 16-second car.
Right. And so these guys were going 770, and Pro Stock was going 750 at the time.
That's pretty.
So that's, it's quick stuff. And they're, none of this stuff is like crazy high zoot stuff back in the day either. They have, it's probably aluminum heads on a cast iron, like probably stock block kind of stuff. So they were leaning on stuff hard back then.
That's awesome.
Running where Rich runs. But I also picked up the King of the Open Road as well. So I'm going to be running around with J-Rod and the boys and announcing for that as well. So
nice.
Really, really, really close. And I'm not going to try to jinx it, but FL2K.
Oh, nice. So
we're just down to money on that one.
When do you think you'll be co-announcing with Freiberger and Loans on events?
I don't know. I would love to announce with either or both at some point. The the world of announcers is relatively small. And like talking with Cliff Parvin, kind of opened my eyes to it a little bit. And, you know, he was like, well, think about how many dudes do this, but do it as well as we do it. And how many dudes are willing to travel, and how many dudes are willing to do it for how much money we're doing it for. And there's less than that in the world that do what I do at the level I do it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool, like, to think like, man, you're in kind of this, even to be named in the same sentence as dudes like that is that's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah.
It rolls off your tongue. Dorey Loans and Freiberger.
I mean, have their people call my people. I mean, my number's been the same for the last 20 years, so let's go.
Nice. Oh, that's so awesome. So give us a little background on Adam Dorey. I mean, you've got at least 2 stick shift cars that I'm aware of that you did drag week with. Did we figure out what year that was, Rich? With
That was
the green latrine, that one there?
Oh,
The Malibu. Ooh, look at that thing.
love that car.
And that's 2014.
Well, that's when I met you then.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you called me, I think. That's the way it was. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was. I got into drag week. To understand kind of the background, a little bit of the drag week kind of world. 2014 was when drag week kind of got as big as it got. Like, it was sort of its pinnacle. That was when it sold out really fast for the first time, like minutes fast. So I was actually racing. I was at Vandermeer. Made a time trial, got back to the pits, got into my buddy's trailer, and went, oh, yeah, I should probably try to register for drag week. And I got in, which was strange. I just had my phone. I was sitting at the racetrack. I just sort of like, oh, yeah, I should probably. And it sold out in like 8 minutes, and I got a ticket. Just typing like this on my phone, you know. So yeah, I had
the good old days.
The good old days.
Now.
No, sir. You got to have auto
Couple
everything,
laptops set up like a day trader.
Right. Yeah, hire some homeless people to, you know, sit with, you know, for you on another laptop you've got.
Totally.
Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got into it then. The car was stock 5.3, and it had 125 horsepower shot of nitrous on it. It was a 4M60 at the time, and a 9-inch, and kind of an El Cheapo at the time. It was I LS swapped that car in 2006, and it was kind of early in the LS swap world. So a lot of it was kind of home built and kind of cobbled together, and it was when you could buy a 5.3 from Copart or LKQ or whatever for like $400. So I got a matching 5.3 and 4L60 and just zoop and got a cheap wet kit. And I think I had $7,000 in the whole car, and it went like 1150, and it was awesome. It was just a cool, like, it had hacked together F-body Camaro headers that like fit, but like didn't fit. Right.
4L60 has a good overdrive too, though, right?
It was a 6.8, I think.
Oh yeah,
that's not bad,
or something like that. So not terrible. And I had a 410 gear in it, and it has a 309 or 308 first gear.
Oh, yeah.
So it gets jiggy with it out of the hole, and that car did. It even with 1150s, it was pretty much, it was like a stock eliminator type car. It just everything in 60 foot, and then after that, it was pretty much just making noise. But it was like 156 or 155 60 foots going 1150, and it would hike a tire, and it was cool as hell, and it was a pretty fun little deal. But and I made it in the 32 shootout field or whatever for the daily driver class. Then now it's Street Machine Eliminator.
That's awesome.
But made it in that 32. It was early in the morning, and I had that nitrous car, and it was cold, And so the 125 shot was maybe making about 70, and it was pig rich, and so it just couldn't run the number. So I was out the first round, which is fine. I got to race in it, so who cares? But
Who went with you the first?
I had Brad with me. Brad's been my nonstop co-pilot until Stevie. So I had Brad, and he just sort of. It was weird. I'm in a little car club called the Rod Chuckers, and Brad's in that as well. And I put a little post on the Rod Chuckers, and I was like, "Hey guys, I got into drag week. Like, who wants to go with me?" And Brad immediately was like, "I'm in. Let's go. I don't care." Like, I haven't really hung out with Brad very much at that point. So, getting to know Brad for a week and a week and a half, shotgun is that was fun. Like, we were either going to be like really good friends or not, and we turned out as really good friends. So, so it worked out good.
Yeah, I can say I think we swapped co-pilots at one point over all these years, and Brad is an awesome co-pilot. Like, I wasn't sure at first. I was kind of like, I don't know about this guy, and he gets in, man. He's business. He's all business with co-piloting.
And I kind of built him that way.
Well done.
In fact, like on the side of the road at one point, and I was like, "You need to figure out where we are, or I'm going to kill you and leave you out here." And like, he did it. Like, he found out where we were. I did that first drag week. I've been like poor like a lot of my life, and I was poor. I did that all on credit. It took me 2 years to pay off drag week 2014.
Wow.
So we went through the same toll thing 4 times. And like, I don't have any money, like cash, and you need cash at a toll thing. Like, and so, yeah, what little cash I had, I was about to ram down Brad's throat.
Because you were lost. You were lost. You had to go through
it. Right. Yep, exactly. And so I just can't afford this. Like, I literally, like, I'm gonna be bankrupt because I only have $8 more, and it's $2.40 every time we go through that, and they won't take my card. That was U.S. I mean, yeah, there's two countries that
it's like $30 Canadian.
Yeah, exactly. That's like $75 Canadian, something like that. So no, like, since that point, like, he has his stuff together, and if you have a co-pilot that needs help with co-piloting, find Brad, and he will. The dude has figured out that he runs the route on his phone at the hotel the night before, and takes screenshots of any turns or waypoints. So when you get out into the boonies and you have no cell coverage, he has all of his stuff. He can scroll through, and on each step in the directions, he has something, even if he doesn't have cell coverage. So the dude
he needs to do a co-pilot community college. That's what he needs.
He does.
Yeah,
he does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can he train 81-year-old?
And he's all business. What? One more time?
Can he train 81-year-old Germans? Am I cutting out?
Oh, Rich is breaking up, but I can hear what he's saying.
He's asking if he can train his dad.
81-year-old German. Yeah, that's what he said.
Yeah. Probably. Yeah, probably. I mean, again, like, you've got to stick your dad with Brad and then see if they can coexist, because Brad's a different cat. And, you gotta get used to Brad.
Yes, his laugh especially.
His laugh, and yeah, I mean, he's funny. He's a smoker, but he's like a considerate smoker, because, like, we'll stop for anything, like anything, and I mean, he's smoking as much as he can. And when it's time to go, he's okay. Let's go. And I mean, he'll save that and he'll put it behind his ear, and we're gone. And then no smoke gets in the car. Again, co-pilots that are smokers, you can get tips from Brad. That dude has it down, because and I mean, we stayed in the worst hotels. I stayed in the cheapest because I had no money. Our first hotel we went in, and it had grasshopper legs all over the floor. Just legs. No full grasshoppers, but just their legs.
Interesting.
Yeah, and yeah, whatever, man. But I think I got some stuff that like even penicillin doesn't cure. But we did it, dude. But yeah, so we did it. We had that car. It was awesome. We went back in 2016, cocky to drag week after we finished race week in 15. And we were like, we're going to go and we're going to light the world on fire and we're going to do it naturally aspirated small block style. And I had upgraded to the LS1 in my car at that point. So it's an aluminum block, 347 cubic inches. I think it was like half of a thousandth over. So it was like 349 or something like that.
Big block.
But it had a raunchy. Oh yeah. Had a big raunchy NA cam in it. It was a pretty fun car. Still with the automatic.
Oh, still the auto. Okay.
Still the automatic, and I broke it in 2016. I shattered the pump. I was switching torque converters out like crazy, chasing a 2-type torque converter because, as you know, in Denver, your torque converter is different than it is sea level.
Right.
So, your car makes less power, your converter flashes lower. It's tough to make a slippery enough converter for Denver with a lower horsepower car. And, this thing made probably about 450 or 500 wheel horsepower, something like that. It was snotty for an NA car, but I could never get the converter loose enough. So I changed it like 3 times, and I finally was like, whatever, we're just going to run with what we have. They told me it was a 4,700 and it stalled at 3,600.
That's still pretty rowdy.
The cam needed about 4,500 because it was working good. And yeah, so whatever. I didn't measure the pump engagement on the last converter. I assumed it was the same as the previous ones, but it was not. So it broke the pump tabs off on day 2, and that's when I got my 600 mile an hour time slip. It broke and came to a stop at about 3:30, and the guy rode the 4-wheeler the wrong way through the traps, and so it read 600. And it was like 32 seconds or something like that, 600 miles an hour. And the 8th mile was like 30 miles an hour or something like that.
It's really hard.
It backhalves like a mofo. But that was right when we were kind of hanging out a lot, Bill. And I started making a little more money at the time. So I was like, what do you think about a stick? And you're like, oh my God, do it, T56, and you need this, and this is the clutch you need, and you need this, and this is everything you need, and you should just make it happen, and let me know when you have it, and I'll, whatever. I'll walk you through all the stuff you need. So I traded a Turbo 400 I had to Brian Lum for a T56, and the rest is history. Now I'm a stick dude. So
and let's add that you now have in that green car a face-plated T56.
Yep. I've never not had a face-plated trans in that car.
Okay.
When I picked the trans up, I immediately sent it to Liberty's and just said, I don't know anything about this. I need you to A, rebuild it, and B, hop it up. So call me and tell me what you think that looks like. And they called me with 17 different quotes, and I picked something kind of in the middle, but it's everything except for big shafts. So it's still a GM box. It's a GTO box. So it's a 297 first and a 50 overdrive, a 56 gear.
Well, and you brought your own big shaft to the party, right?
I mean, always.
What does that thing stall at now?
Whatever you want it to.
That's right. Yes. The infinitely variable stall converter. I love it.
Yes is the answer. But no, I put the faceplated trans in it, and that's when I had my LS1, and I had a blower that I had picked up, and so I had it on the big motor, and so I was gonna go out swinging. I had this, pretty raunchy 350 motor that I had gotten a blower cam for, and I strapped it. It's a little Magnuson 112. It's a blower built for a Silverado pickup truck, and I bolted it on, and I was like, well, here we go. Like, let's see what this does. Unfortunately, I started it, and the blower made more noise than anything. It was blowed up bad. So it was just bearings. It was not like the worst thing ever. So I was able to put bearings in it, but when I took the rotor pack out, the bearings in the back were not, and they're still not, and it's the stupidest thing ever, a caged bearing. So the rollers.
You can say that. It's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. The fucking rollers fell out of the bearing and into the intercooler.
Nice.
It's got a intercooler in the intake manifold. So, like, that sucks. Whatever. I'll have to pick those all out and put them back in, and with grease like a dummy.
Red grease, yeah.
And yeah. So I was like, okay, they're all in. They weren't all in. But wait, there's more. So yeah, one of them made it through the brick, through an open intake valve and into the cylinder, and leaned up against the side of the cylinder, like piston.
So it's roller bearing, not a
roller bearing,
like
yeah,
a needle bearing. Sorry, not a roller bearing.
Correct.
So not a ball.
It's not a ball. It's a needle.
Right.
Yeah. So so I'm super excited to start it, of course, with open exhaust, because you got to hear your new blower motor uncapped, because that's what you do.
And you're like 2 days from race week, if I remember right.
It's about right. Yep.
Yeah,
about 2 days, and we were going to drive it to Kearney, I believe, was the start track. So, yeah, giddy up. Let's get weird, and this will be our first time with this thing. And it not good. Not good. I'm revving it. We're having fun. It's woo. This thing is sweet. Sure does smoke though. Sure is smoking a lot. That's weird. Well, let's hook up the exhaust anyway and go take it for a run and go see. It'll clear up. It's probably just fingerprints or whatever. Put the exhaust on, and
What's it sound like?
Wonder what that is. So yeah, pulled it out, and it had nailed straight through the ring pack. I've got a great picture of it. But it was just smacking into the chamber of the head, and didn't hurt the head otherwise. So I was able to use those on my $410 motor that I got as a replacement. But not after I put the 4.8 in it without taking the heads off, and the head gaskets were blown so bad that it was blowing a sheet of water out of the side in between the block and the head. It was like a water jet. Yeah, this is the second motor. A day before race week.
1 day now, a day down.
1 day now. Because I had to go get a motor that morning.
Yes.
And meanwhile, Brad's swapping the motor out, and I'm putting this new motor in, and then it did that.
And then Houston, we still have a problem.
Right. So I'm done. Like, we're not going to go to race week now, but I was able to use the heads off of the big motor on the little motor and put the blower on it. And that's the most fun I've ever had with a car in my whole life. I didn't do anything to it. I put a cam in it, and I put head gaskets on it. I didn't take a cap off or nothing. I didn't gap the rings. I just put it in and put the small pulley on and went racing. And it was a blast. So much fun.
How much boost?
Yeah, Sorry?
How much boost?
12.
Yeah.
12 is all it would make. And honestly, it was making more heat than boost at that point.
You had it overdriven like 22% or something, didn't you?
It was 22% over max.
Over max, yeah.
It was overdriven like 85%. It was rowdy. Yeah, it was rowdy. It sounded like a whole different thing that I've ever heard from the front of it.
I remember
especially on the two-step. That thing was wild, and but it's just those blowers are good for 500 horsepower, whether you make 500 horsepower at 6 pounds of boost or at 12 or 15 pounds of boost. It just at the higher boost levels, it makes so much heat that it doesn't actually make any more power.
Yeah, but it sounds cool as hell.
It sounds cool as hell. It made like the torque curve was like, I mean, you could almost miss a gear and still run the same ET because it made like 480 or something foot-pounds of torque, and this is a 4.8, so it's like 280 something, 292 cubic inches or something. It made like 470 foot-pounds, and it was like 430 or greater over 2,500. So it was like a big block, and it was so much fun with the faceplates on the street, because faceplates are awesome until they're not. Like you get sick of that shit once in a while, and you can, with something with that much torque, put it in fifth and go 30, and still have enough power to get moving with traffic and stuff. So 30 to 130 was synchronized. So, like, no big deal. So I would pretty much go first to third to fifth and drive it in fifth. So awesome. It worked out good.
How fast did you go with it?
Its quickest was when it was hurt. I actually, I froze that motor. We had an early freeze 3 years ago or something like that, and it was like an early September freeze, and I too late went out and went, I didn't drain that car, and I pulled the lower radiator hose off and a stalactite fell out. And I was like, well, it's probably hurt. It was hurt, but it went 11:58. And it was fighting itself at the top end. Water was getting into the cylinder.
And that was in Denver, correct?
That was at Julesburg.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so water injection then that helps clean things.
Yeah, it was its own water injection. It fouled the plug with water. By the end of the track, and the mile an hour was down like 10 or something like that from its normal. But yeah, I'm just whatever, man. That was as quick as it went. It was a pretty consistent like 1165 car, and it was a like deadly 750 eighth mile car. It was like on 750 every single time.
That's awesome. Now,
yeah,
tell me about your other stick shift car, because we have a little history with that one too, you and I.
We do. So I've got a first generation Cadillac CTSV. Those are all either LS6 or LS2 powered, depending on the year, and they're all T56 cars. No matter what, all the first generations came with T56s. They're it's a CTSV only trans, so it doesn't have a slip yoke at the back. It has a drive flange, and it has a really rear mounted shifter. It's got like a big plate that the shifter sits on, so it puts it where it needs to be. A Magnum XL will fit, and the shifter's in the right spot.
Okay.
And so there are options, but they only made like 4,000 of those cars, and so a lot of the parts for them, like including that drive flange, are getting really hard to come by, especially T56 stuff. So that's pretty much what guys are doing is Magnums. But this is it's a high mile. It's got it just passed 195,000 miles. CTSV first gen. It's had a ton of owners. It's been rear-ended real hard. It's it's just like, kind of a trashy V8 sedan rear-wheel drive that I got for, I think I gave $6,500 for that car, with like 165,000 miles on it, and the shifter was terrible. Actually, Rich sat in it when it had the shifter unfixed, and the stock shifter was absolutely junk. It could be in a gear, and you could move it like it's in neutral.
Remember.
So like driving it fast was like nearly impossible, and it's all in that weird plate. They just have a ton of bushings, and there's like a big bushing at the front that I replaced with a big bronze piece that finally made it so it shifts fine. But it's very close to the same transmission as the GTO. It has the triple synchro deal that those had stock, and it's got a 297 first gear, and it's got a 52 sixth gear. It's like a weird wackadoo one, but it rides and feels just like the Malibu does. All the gear splits are identical. It just makes a lot less power and it's heavier, but it's cool because you don't lose your muscle memory between the two. They're basically the same, other than the one's face plated, so it's like violence in your hand, and the other one's like smooth, buttery amazingness.
It's like Cadillac.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But no, it's a stock, not stock, but it's a factory motor, so it's got a high mile motor. It's a factory trans. It does have an LS7 clutch in it, and after doing everything in my power to keep the factory rear end in it, I ended up having to bite the bullet and put an 8.8 in it.
What
I didn't
happened
have
with
to,
that?
but I did.
Because the factory rear end is like really fragile. Is that right?
They're super fragile. They're back up to getting your time machine. We're in 2006. GM does not make the Camaro at the moment, so their only front engine rear drive offerings are the Pontiac G8, the CTSV, and the GTO. So really, they were looking for, in those years, the platform that the Camaro would be built on. So it was kind of those duking it out to move forward, and it's basically a G8. I mean, they're kind of on. It's like a mix,
Yeah.
but they're on that same sort of platform. But at the time, the Sigma chassis, which is the CTSV, and the second generation is in the same chassis, they were what Europe was producing for GM. So it was a European GM chassis, and it has a Getrag rear end because Europeans put little tiny Getrag rear ends and stuff because they're idiots. Because they're not,
any torque.
it's meant for a V6 car. It just straight up is. It had a different rear end, and it was the same one they put in the Pontiac Sky, if you remember that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, but it was like a 6 3/4 inch ring gear.
Oh, geez.
And just nothing. And really, the detriment to it was the 27 spline outers. So on the CV, the 27 spline is just nothing. It's just spindly. So I've never actually broken a rear end in one of those. I've broken a lot of axles, but they broke inside the rear end, so you have to take the rear end apart to get the shrapnel out to put it back together. So I kept spares because typically it would break inside, and every one we broke was inside, so I would have to change the whole thing. So yeah, I spent a ton of money on braces and high zoot axles and all sorts of crap. And I mean, we're still, it's 4,000 pounds and it makes 400 wheel, maybe. It's like a, cam spring long tube header car. It's not like it makes 700 horsepower. But even on street tires, I tried everything. I tried a bang shift Billy, and we in the pits with zero prep on street tires broke an axle.
I remember that.
And it was, I mean, I threw up my hands, and and really I blew it up once at Kearney, and we were up until like 4 a.m. And of course, that's when you need it to come apart right, and it didn't, so we were cutting shit apart, and I didn't pack the right socket for the axle nut, and it was a shit show. But I thought to myself, how much would I pay? X amount of money to not do that ever again. And it came in under what the 8.8 costs, but I bit the bullet and did it anyway.
Yeah.
And so far so good. I just had to have it out. It was leaking like a sieve. Every single seal, both the axle seals and the pinion seal, were leaking like crazy. So I don't know who put it together. Oh, there goes Rich.
He'll come back. He's going to log back in.
I don't know who put it together. Actually, I'm sure that the company I bought it from put it together, but and there was a lot, whatever. It had an axle bearing that went bad, so I had to fix that. Whatever. The independent rear suspension stuff is wild because it's only the center section. There's no axle tubes. So it doesn't hold very much oil. That thing completely dry to completely full is 2 quarts.
Huh.
So if you're leaking and you're losing, you don't feel like you're losing that much oil, but if it only holds 2 and you lose 1.
Well, it doesn't take long to stop leaking.
Hi, Rich.
What you're saying. It doesn't take long to stop leaking.
Right. Yeah. So I just had it out. I sealed it all up. I sliced my hand open. Life is good. Like, whatever. It's all good. But it's a super cool. Creative Steel makes the kit. It's a bolt-in for they have them for both first and second generation CTSVs. And you don't have to change anything. None of the hubs or nothing like that. It just plops in, and 1,000 horsepower capable, ready to go. And it's a 410 gear. It's just got a Ford Racing posi in it.
Yeah.
It's based on a Terminator Mustang center chunk, but it's actually an iron center.
Oh,
so it would have been in like a Thunderbird Super Coupe.
Nice.
And then but those were 28 spline, so it has 31 spline like the Terminator has. So it's all Terminator axle type stuff, and a Super Coupe like center third member.
Now, I see that car at Race Week when you're announcing. So who drives it?
Stevie drives that car.
Well, that used to be, that's my car and that's my girlfriend, but now
she's my fiance, and we are going to get married at some point. We're trying to figure that out now, and it's like we're getting closer and closer to just going to the courthouse or going to Vegas.
Nice.
And just doing it because like she wants to wear her dress, she wants to go do something, but like all of our plans just keep coming up. Like, I mean, now I lost my job, and now I'm going to have like announcing crap that I'm going to try to be stacking through the end of the year. And like, when are we going to plan on doing anything? Because right now I'm like flying by the seat of my pants.
Yeah.
So we might just go do it and make it done. But no, she's a gangster, and she's a stick shift lady. She loves it. Yeah, she is totally into it. And when we were sort of dating, I was telling her about the Cadillac, and I was like, you just need to, you need to go for a ride in this thing. And, I mean, it's relatively snotty. It, at Kearney last year, I ran a 1340 in it with street tires. And leaving it idle and just, I mean, it's really babying the thing. And, it'll run 12s this year. We've got slicks and all sorts of cool stuff going on. We got the Bankshift Billy on it. So the problem is that we also now just lost another racetrack. So testing is tough for us now. So we're our closest track is now Julesburg again, which is about 300 miles one way.
Oh
no.
Well, Mexico's not too far from you, right?
Mexico is not very far from here, and there's a lot of Mexico around here. Yeah, there's a lot of open space where dudes get jiggy with it, and they have a semi regular Friday night cruise night, and there's some snotty stuff in Rapid City. The Dales, who Rich met the Dales, they've got some. They're Pontiac dudes, but they're stick shift Pontiac dudes. So like Steve Dale's got a 455 with it's a naturally aspirated thing, but it's got a Liberty equalizer in it. In a C10 67 pickup truck. He's got like a 63 Pontiac Safari wagon with it's also got an equalizer. Like everything they have has Liberty equalizers in them. His brother's got a 70 GTO with dual quads and an equalizer. They street drive these things. They're all V gates. They're gangsters and they do some cool stuff around here. And they've got there's some cool small tire. There's like two identical Mustangs. One's a big block Chevy with nitrous. Another's and the other one's a Turbo LS, and they look identical sitting next to each other, other than one's got a big lump in the hood.
Which awesome. Which track?
The nitrous big block. What's that?
Which track just closed?
Sturgis Raceway.
Oh.
So it was a little 8th mile track right here. It was about 30 minutes away. That was one of the selling points of South Dakota for me was like, well, you're losing Bandimere, so we can gain Sturgis. And unfortunately, the owner, it sounds like, doubled the lease over the winter, and the manager that was running it said, "Pound it, I'm out." Like, I was already not making any money.
Yeah, that's rough.
I'm certainly not going to pay you to drag race.
Yeah. I mean, none of us paid a drag race. Why would he?
Yeah, exactly. 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 So we'll see. But no, there's Marion. Marion, South Dakota is about the same. It's about 300 miles, but it's straight I-90. And it's a 1/4 mile track. So, so we'll get out. We'll go see some stuff. We may even do like one of those Douglas races or something. But yeah, when your track is that far away, like testing it is a tough thing. And now I've got a car we're switching to slicks with an inexperienced driver with slicks. So, I mean, bias tires have their own thing, especially, 4th gear.
Little wiggle,
you just need, right. You just, and if you've, and Rich just shared his post of him sliding through the lights at 140 sideways, running over his own oil. Like, crap happens fast up there. So, just before we just go do that, it would be nice to be able to kind of shake it down a little bit and make sure all that works. But I did a little aggressive on it. I did a true 28, and it's a 28 street slick. And so it's a 28-11-50 is what it's listed as, but it's really a 28-10-50 on that Cadillac.
QuickTime Pro?
It is a QuickTime Pro.
Oh, yep. I love those. Those are great tires.
Yep. And it's on a 17-inch wheel because that has race car brakes.
Oh yeah, interesting. Okay.
So it's gotta have big wheels to fit. It's a 28-11-50 17.
So probably a little stiffer sidewall than the 15. So it probably won't move as much.
Probably it should work. I mean, just fine. But it's huge on that car.
Well, it looks huge. Awesome. It looks so good.
And I ended up having to do coilovers. And the back is a little stink buggy. You can't really tell driving it around, and actually it'll help when you're loaded down, kind of cruising down the road and stuff for drag and drive type stuff. But they fit, but I mean, like, fit. Like, yeah, can.
Like, get the baseball bat and roll the fender lip? Is that kind of...
I get a little bit more than that, but yeah, I mean, on the inside.
Oh, yeah.
But you can't see that when the tire's on, so it's fine.
Right, it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, but it's going to be cool. So, like I said, we just need to kind of shake it down and get that going, but I fully see a 12-second time slip in in that thing's future very soon. On top of that, it does have a 2-step, so she's never driven anything with a 2-step before. So there's just a lot of stuff that we're gonna try to tiptoe into and get her happy with on that car. And she's pretty much taken over that car. Like, I drive it around town, and it's super fun, and it's cool to haze the tires in a couple of gears and whatever. But pretty much she races that. We had in the last couple of years when we drive stuff to racetracks, we'll race Saturdays and Sundays, and so she'll race Saturday, I'll race Sunday, or vice versa. But she's basically taken over that car.
That's awesome.
Which is totally fine by me. She we were kind of cruising around the Malibu when I say cruising around, like loading it and stuff, and I was like, hey, get in there and help us drive this or whatever. And she can't fit in it. She can't run the pedals well, unfortunately. So which is not the end of the world. I mean, a 12-second street car, stick shift sedan is nothing to mess with. No. And with your lady driving in it, so whatever.
I think that
she'll have that.
Yeah.
I'll have the Malibu, and I'm getting the Monza back relatively soon as well. So
I think that people get disillusioned these days when you see like, 7-second stick class and 8-second street cars and this and that. Dude, a 12-second street car is fast as hell. Like, people don't realize it. Like,
at any given time, if you're not on race week or sick week, that car's the fastest car on the road. In a large margin.
Yes. Yes.
You could put a dot on that and draw a line probably 10 miles and not have a quicker car than that.
True.
There probably is a Hellcat or something but right there, odds are really good you got the quickest car on the road.
Yeah.
With a 12-second street car. And it really is. It's a tough thing for me because, I mean, you guys are among the, when you start talking about, stick shift dudes with street cars with da-da-da-da-da, like, you're in that, kind of conversation. And being homies with you is a tough world to live in because, like,
I've heard that.
Yes,
before.
a 12-second street car is badass, but when you park it next to an 850 street car, it becomes less badass because, but you guys are the, again, you're the creme de la creme of this. Yeah, so when you distill it down.
Yeah, it's Rich's fault. He is always pushing it and making this, man.
I mean, 851.
I know.
That's it. I mean, it's got an 850 cert on everything, on you and on the car. Yeah. So, I mean, that's about as good as you can get.
Is that about as good as it's going to get, Rich?
No.
How many pounds of boost? What's that? 7 what? Because that was only 17 pounds of boost, right?
Yeah.
And it's dry decked?
Should be good for 25 now. The Nick in that beautiful black Trans Am, that 78 Trans Am, that is a stock block, twin turbo combination Pontiac, and he was putting 23 pounds of boost to that thing, stock block.
Wow. Okay.
Not dry decked. It only had Cometic head gaskets, so 25 pounds should be no problem at all.
His famous last words.
Yeah. And then going, oh, how's Guido going to get home? Why is he smoking at the top of the track?
Yeah, that Crowler crank has no idea what's coming.
Oh yeah, and I mean, I've asked him multiple times, like, what's your get out of jail free plan? Like, what do you do? And he's like, we haven't figured it out yet, so I don't know. Like, but well, I mean, who knows? And I was like, what about, can you put a stock 350 in it or something like that? And he's like, well, none of the headers and stuff will line up. It's got wacky exhaust ports, so no, like, unless you found like Jason Hurley'd it, where you like got a motor with an HEI and a carburetor and headers, and just figured it out.
Yeah, to get home.
Yeah.
I've offered that to you. I think I offered that to Bill too at one point.
There's probably a kit for that.
Yeah,
I guarantee there is. Holly makes it. Like you can order. It's like one part number, and like basically elves come and LS swap your car overnight.
God, that would be so awesome.
It's basically like just click. Hey, wow! Look,
go to bed, get up in the morning.
Walgreens, just go to Walgreens. They probably have them.
No, yeah, 7-Eleven has head gaskets and spark plugs. I mean, if you got LS like rocker arms, like upgraded rocker arms, you can get at Big Lots. It's yeah. There's something to be said with driving something that has been made in the last 40 years.
That's true.
It's called boring. That's what that's called.
Yep.
I still have fun.
Before we get off the dam, did you guys see Chad Figley's head?
Dude.
Yes.
So much carnage.
Well, that's not the first one I've seen. Yeah, it's not the first one I've seen in the last couple of weeks, and they're all the trick flow heads. I asked a question on his post if that's isolated to the LS heads, and I don't think anybody responded because I have trick flow heads on my Ford, and those are practically
keep
LS
it turned
heads.
down, Bill. You just got to keep it turned down. You just got to go way down. No, just like
way down.
15 pounds.
Haven't you heard small block Fords brake at 500 foot-pounds? I mean,
that's probably right. That's probably right. I'm having to. Yeah, I mean, I'm putting it back together right now. I put dish pistons in it and just Fel-Pro head gaskets. It'll be fine.
It's probably good.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
So stupid. Cars are so stupid.
It's so stupid. Are you? I get to ask some questions now. Are you keeping the hydraulic roller?
Who are you asking?
Bill, because Rich doesn't have a hydraulic roller and never has.
No, I tried
going back to a solid.
I tried the hydraulic roller, and when it was working, it worked great. But I had issues with the lifters, and
valve springs.
Yeah. Like I went with the whole package. This is going to be perfect, awesome, and it was until it broke a valve spring. Well, that's weird. That never happens, really. And I got so lucky because it was a single conical, very small conical spring, broke in 2 spots, and we thought it was a transmission issue. We drove it like 30 miles like that and didn't drop a valve.
Wow.
Super lucky. So no, I'm going back to the same springs that I ran before, which are the ones Rich runs, the PSI 1536s, I believe. It's a low lash solid. I'll be lashing it at 3,000s cold.
Oh, wow.
And it's very similar, very similar in specs to the hydraulic roller that was in there. So it's not crazy big or anything. And so I did crack the block on the last race week, and it was during the drive, just before a massive thunderstorm and in front of some drunk farmer's house. Like it was, yeah, I wish we'd filmed all that because it was just like, it was nuts.
Like gold.
Oh, yeah, it was crazy. But
going to the desktop. Yeah, drunk farmer. Well, it was a good time. Under a tarp, having a party.
Yep. So, but I got a new block, and it's actually a Gen 2 dart block, which is it's 12 pounds heavier than the old one, but it's significantly stronger in all the places where I think they had issues and where mine cracked. So that's good. And then this is hilarious. I was actually on vacation when Rich was at sick week, and I was kind of tuning in. Day one, he goes 861. I'm like, woo! He went quicker than my 870. That's awesome. And then day 2, he goes 851, and I looked at my fiance Courtney and I go, oh shit, that's a problem. And she goes, what? And I go, Rich just went 851. And I literally picked up the phone and I called the machine shop because my block was at the machine shop and the heads. And I said, what does it look like to O-ring this thing? And they said, well, this is perfect time. We haven't touched the heads yet. And I said, then let's just do it.
Nice.
So
and if you guys haven't met Courtney, Courtney's awesome, but Courtney doesn't do the car thing
no,
very much.
She doesn't walk.
So like, I'm sure she's like, great.
kind of, yeah. like doesn't have a. She doesn't listen to this thing anyway, but she doesn't really know what the stuff costs. So she's either way under or way over, and she's like, you know, and I'm like, God, I'm probably gonna have to get those turbos now and everything else. And she's like, well, that's like X, and I'm like, no, it's like half that. But you know, I hate reviewing.
But really, she's pretty close. It's like a couple $100 off.
Nah, it's fine. But
whatever.
Yeah, but it was just hilarious because like I was excited for Rich, and now I'm like, all right, it's on.
Right. Like you feel good for your buddy for a little while, but then it's like I can only feel good about you beating me for so long. So,
yeah.
Like,
I'm making some other changes to the car this winter. I mean, I've got the shocks I got revalved because that was an issue we fought all last year. Just trying to leave with more power. It just shocks still couldn't control it, so we should be good there. And then I'm upgrading the transmission to a 29 spline input shaft.
cool.
I think I probably have the first 29 spline Ford input shaft. And the challenge has been discs, but I figured that out too, so we'll be in good shape.
I was going to say, do you have your stock stuff broached, or does someone make a 29 spline?
Yeah, so I'm getting probably the very first set from Ace, which is my preferred clutch disc manufacturer. I've had really, really good luck with their 50 or what is it, 5135 discs. And so I'm getting the same disc. It'll be a different batch, of course, but I'm getting discs from them.
Cool.
There's a little bit of a wait, but it should be fine. So,
well, you know, race car pro mod dudes got to have those centered iron discs. So, you know, I still run organic discs in my shit.
Nice.
But I don't make 1,580 horsepower like some of us either.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to. We're gonna have to see what happens. The first race week, I am gonna be running with the same turbos I've been running, and since Rich won't be there, it'll be okay.
Right.
We'll see what happens. But if it's not enough to go 850, then I still have time before the second race week.
You got some more turbos and stuff on there. And I mean, your stuff, like I'm sure your listeners know, but like, I mean, your stuff is a home built air to air intercooler that, like, I mean, you taught yourself to weld basically on your turbo kit.
I did. Yeah. When I built the turbo motor, the first rendition of it, I had a guy build because I didn't know anything about boosted stuff, but I bought my TIG welder to build my hot side, and that's how I learned.
Yeah. So yeah. And your hot side's gone over a couple of other iterations, and you've made it better along the way. But like,
correct.
I mean, you know, in comparison, and not, you know, not to discount what Rich has done. I mean, that thing is sweet as hell, but you're still small with a 427 cubic inch motor, and he's 1,000 cubes, and yeah, you're doing it on an air to air
with a pair of 62s. Like,
and I was going to say 62s that, like, especially these new Garretts, like, they're quiet. Like, it's a weird feel from the outside looking in, and that car doesn't look, feel, act like, if you look at it and you really look at it close, you might think it's a 10-second car. Like, really.
Well, it'll
especially
go
like on the steely, like, street wheels.
If I could launch it, well, I think it's hard traction limited, but it's gone 1130s exactly how I drive it on the street at 135.
Right. And that's like low boost and, you know, probably pig rich and street gas. And
well, it's 7 pounds of boost on pump gas. So yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a spicy freaking street car, man. Like, you know, but no, that's, and when you start looking at the differences, and, you know, Rich has got an air to water intercooler, which is more racy and whatnot. But like your stuff gets it. Like both of your guys' stuff gets it, but like your stuff still gets it, and it's got Barry Manilow in the 8-track.
Hell yeah.
So I mean, both of you guys are total. I mean, like I said, the best way to be an announcer is a fanboy, and I'm huge fans of both of your stuff, and you guys are doing some cool stuff with.
I'm flattered.
I mean, index racing, freaking heavy steel street cars. Like that's pretty sweet in my world.
Well, thank you.
Hell yeah.
We should.
He's hijacked our podcast. You see what he did there?
Yeah, I know. We got to dig in more. We got to dig in more about Adam.
Yes.
I apologize.
No, it's awesome.
I don't know if your people like I've watched a bunch of this and like you guys have talked a bit about your stuff and Rich is starting to get more into his on his YouTube and whatnot and you too, Bill. Like you've got a ton of like in-depth stuff, but I don't know if your people know how cool you people are. Like you have cool guests, but you dudes are cool.
It's funny when people come to my garage, I usually show them my roof. And the reason I show them my roof is because I painted the bottom of my car on a rotisserie and my I don't have an 8-foot ceiling in there, so I'm either on my back or anyways. When I painted the bottom of the car, you can see the wheel wells on the roof of the garage because that's how close it was to the roof.
The roof of the what? One more time.
The garage.
What's the name of the building?
It's a garage.
Okay.
Yeah, and here in the U.S. we would call it a ceiling in a garage. The roof is on the outside, but it's okay. He's in Canada.
Yeah, you guys don't do it. None of that stuff is done right up there. It's wild. Y'all are wild.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. So, yeah.
Go ahead, Bill. I think you were going to ask the.
No. I was just going to say. So, Adam, you actually have. I've known you for a long time, and there's a lot of really cool stuff about you too. Thank you for your military service, but I think that really shaped up who you are today. So talk about that a little bit, because I know there's a lot of people in this realm that have been in the military and done that. I have not myself. I probably couldn't have handled it, but you did. So go for it.
Yeah, it was wacky. So I was working in the same industry that I just got canned out of, and I was kind of like a low totem pole sort of guy. And, just sort of going to work and, really just partying as much as I could party and chasing as many girls as I could chase at the time. Cause that's what you do. And then, September 11th, bang, I was, I was 22 and, went and gave blood and was like, that's cool. Like, I think that helps maybe, but like, I think I maybe want to I want to do something more here. And so I talked to a buddy of mine whose dad was in the Army and he said, or he's in the reserves, Army Reserves. And he was a tech guy. And I didn't really know that at the time. He fixed equipment. So like the military has every job that exists on the outside, on the inside of it. So, he fixed MRI machines and he was in the Army. You wake up, you run, you can still shoot a rifle, but your job day to day is to fix an MRI machine in a hospital somewhere, wherever that may be. But he opened my eyes to a ton of what the military had out there. Like, I just thought it was pretty much just door kickers and, stuff like that. But he gave me good advice and said, find something that's cool that you want to do and find something that will help you and, also help them in their process. So, at the time I was gung ho and I was all about it, but I wanted to do something cool, but in a cool capacity. So, so I got the book of jobs that were available as a paratrooper, and I ended up picking a military intelligence job that only had a slot in the unit that I was going to available to a paratrooper. So I was like, I'll get to do this cool job and jump out of airplanes. So there we go. The rest is history. So I went to school. It was awesome. I was a military intelligence guy. They have it's a part of intelligence called signals intelligence. So, I spy on people, but I don't look at them. I listen to them. So it was cool, and it was a cool career for like 9 years of my life. I deployed twice. I went to Iraq twice. I was in a special forces unit my entire career, so got to work directly with Green Berets. I was in an airborne unit, so we got to jump a lot. I have 42 airborne jumps, and it was a very, very cool thing for me in the time of my life that I needed it. And I say a lot of the time that it turned me into a man. It was, I mean, there's no way you can get through basic training and all of that without, I mean, if you go in a kid, you come out a man. I mean, it just is what it is. And that's where I was. I was partying and chasing girls and drinking too much. And then I got in the Army and I partied and chased girls and drank too much, but I did it in a uniform. So, and that had a lot more success than a silk shirt. So, whatever.
Nice.
But yeah, no, it was, I say a lot. It was the both best and worst decision of my life. That happened at the exact same time. So it turned me into a man. It got me a lot of benefits that I'm reaping today. I've got a VA home loan, which is great. You get a 0 down home loan at a slightly better interest rate than what's out there, which is great. I'm slightly disabled through the VA, so I get free health care. So losing my job's not the end of the world. I've got health care, everything except for dental. So I've got to figure that out. But my vision and health are taken care of through that. And like I said, it turned me into the man I am today, and it gave me a different outlook on life a little bit. I've seen combat, like real life, no shit movie combat, and every day I'm not doing that is a good day. So it's really cliche to say that like your perspective is what you are, but like it could be so much worse. And I even had a conversation with one of the staff at Sick Week this year, and he was like, "Why are you always in such a good mood?" And I said, "Because no one's thrown a grenade at me in like over 15 years, and like I've had a grenade thrown at me, and like that's a different thing that most people have not had in their life." So so being able to wake up every day and like not have a grenade thrown at me is a damn good day, and like so it's it's really like set me up in that world as well, that like I've seen what a third world country is like, and I've lived in that realm, and I've had people try to kill me in that world. So like waking up in this world with these things that we get to do with these people that we get to do them with is it's a blessing. It's an amazing thing to be able to wake up every morning and not be there.
That's really well said. And if I could add to that too, because I think there's a part of what you just said that is so important that I feel like a lot of society really needs to like open their eyes to these days. And because of my fiance, I've done a bit of traveling and seen way more of the world than I would have ever done without her. And I would say that people that, we'll call them Karens, okay? Karens that want to complain about stuff, they should go spend a week in a third world country, and they would realize how incredibly lucky we are for what we have in this country. And right now, it's a fucking mess. And I'm a little scared, honestly. It is. We've never gone down this road on this podcast, but yeah, it's a bit terrifying. And I know, Rich, we see stuff in Canada too, but it's not the populace that really makes the wheels turn, that's doing a lot of the voting and the decision making. And those of us that make things turn and function and work and fix stuff, if we just throw up our hands and stop, there's going to be a lot of problems. And
Oh yeah.
and I think like what you said, just it's all about perspective. And your best day is based upon your worst day. And if your worst day is that, somebody told you were fat or your hair is ugly or something, like that's your worst day,
Or
you
yeah,
don't have a
or
good.
someone made your pineapple or whatever pumpkin spice latte a little too pumpkiny.
That's right.
Like
If that's your worst day, your perspective is pretty weak.
right, and that's I say that a lot. Like you know they like to use your privilege is showing a lot, and I like to say that a lot too. And it's like, well, spend 7 months or 8 months at a time away from your family, and come back home and see all. I mean, just being away and having the neighborhood is changed. Everything's like things are different, and there's different like buildings and different stoplights, and like the whole world changes in 8 months. That keeps going while you're not there.
Yeah.
And it's just you're living in this place that you can't drink the water, that doesn't have reliable electricity, that you can't call a repairman and have them at your house in 15 minutes.
Yeah, and
it takes 15 days.
Somebody might throw a hand grenade at you.
And yes, and it just depends on where you were born. Like, it just so happens that if you were born like in that world in Kurdistan, you lived a pretty good life. But if your parents lived an hour and a half south of that and you were in Tikrit, you were in a different, it was a whole different world down there. And like a village over here may not like someone in the village over here, so they would lob 15 mortars at them every morning and just kill whoever. But they didn't kill the one guy, but they killed 15 or whatever other people, and maimed, kids and stuff. But they're going to do it the next day because they heard that guy's still alive. Like, that's how a lot of the world works. And you don't, because you have a rift with your neighbor across the street, you should feel pretty good that he's not lobbing grenades across the street at you. Like,
Right.
You're in a pretty good spot if your neighbor's not lobbing grenades at you. You win.
And you might get a shitty pumpkin latte coffee.
Maybe.
So
if you're lucky.
I remember talking to you in 2016, and I think I don't know if that's where I coined the phrase, but I use it at work all the time. When people are getting excited about stuff, I'm like, listen, now we're not saving babies here. Like,
we're not curing cancer.
Yeah,
right.
Like, which is really funny because the one guy at work, he misspoke and said, we're not making babies here. And I'm like, well, we are at work. So yeah, we best not be doing that.
Please don't make babies at work.
Saving babies.
We're saving. We're not saving babies. We're not doing that either. But
that was a lot of the time. That was my saying at work, is I would be getting yelled at by some dude about a sprinkler head not being right. And right, like, dude, we're not curing cancer. We're sprinkling water on the ground. Like, I'll fix
this
it.
Figured out.
I know it's important, but it's not that damn important. Like, let's figure it out, dude. It's fine.
It's a very good perspective to have. Yeah.
And that was 2016 when we almost died, I think, right? Was that when we all got heat stroke, when your fuel pumps kept dying?
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah.
Yeah, we had multiple days of 103, 104 degrees.
Yeah. And I rode with you guys for a little bit, and it was, I think we had stopped for maybe the third time to let your fuel pump cool down. And like Sergeant Dorey showed up, and I was like, everyone take your shirt off, drink water, we're going to get under the shade, and we're going to sit here for like 30 minutes and not die.
Yeah,
that's the goal.
Yeah, that's the year I was going through 120 pounds of ice a day to keep my fuel tank cool.
Right.
I got it fixed now, but yeah, I learned a lot. Learned a lot that year for sure.
Yeah.
That was a rough one.
That was a rough one.
Yeah. Well, you got any other questions for this guy, Rich?
Yeah, let's do some of these announcing questions, because I don't think we asked that. Let me ask you the first one. Do you ever get butterflies before announcing?
I do. Almost every day. For sure, on the first day of any event, it's always chaos. There's a lot. There's a lot to racing that happens behind the scenes that no one knows. Like almost no one has seen what happens inside of a tower, especially right before a race happens. And especially when you're like, for drag and drive stuff, especially, these people don't know us and they don't know what the hell we're doing there. And they don't know how to set up their computers or what, they're just caught off guard with a lot of what's happening. So there's a lot of chaos that happens right before we start every day. And so I always get butterflies before that happens. This last sick week, I spent a lot more time on camera, and I got pretty nervous a couple of times because I was talking to these, again, we're talking, this level of a dude in drag and drive. I mean, Jeff Lutz.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, the dude with the record. And, like, he's working on his car, and I'm just like, hey, Jeff. And he's like, hey, Adam. And I was like, oh, he knows who I am? Oh, my God.
Well, you are on a T-shirt.
Yeah, yeah.
I am on, yeah. So that's a whole other story in itself. So I think that was 16, wasn't it? Was that when we almost died?
Yep.
Yeah. So we stopped at a Brahms.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's 103. And I was driving the Malibu. It wasn't easy time in the Cadillac. I didn't have AC or any of that crap. So yeah, I was, in it with the cool kids. And I bought an ice cream cone. And I brought it outside, and it instantly was melting all over my hand. I mean, the second I walked outside, I was like, well, this is stupid. And it was like $4. I mean, come on, man. So I was like eating it as quickly as I could, and I had a stupid porn star mustache. And I don't know what in the hell I was doing with the porn star mustache, but eating it, and it was hot, and I had my shirt off, and I put it on my nipple, and
someone took a picture.
And Brad was like, that was super funny. Why don't you do it again? So if you look closely, my right nipple is already creamed up from ice cream. I actually did it again so that we could get photographic evidence of it.
Well, and I will say, you were talking about being on camera, and you also said that you have health insurance, but not dental. But I will say, you sure got a pretty mouth.
Yes, sir. Yeah, and then you made the shirts, I think.
No, Bill Leak made these.
Bill Leak made the shirts. Yeah, so he
made like
got the
30
picture
of them. He made like 30 of them.
Yep, and he got the picture from Brad.
Yeah,
and of the 30 that were made, about 15 of you dudes were like, "Hey, why don't you meet me at IHOP for breakfast? Meet us there at this time." And then you guys met like 10 minutes early.
Yeah.
Or something like that. And everyone's wearing that shirt. And so that was the morning I was sure that I ate spit at IHOP. Because when I walked in, everybody starts going, Adam, and it's me, obviously. I mean, great. Yeah, it was good. And then come to find out, like, I mean, Kerry Watson and Andy both had them. Yeah. I mean, like Daryl Yost and his wife had one. I mean, it was
such a classic play by Bill Leak, and it was so awesome. Yeah,
that's a very Bill Leak kind of thing to do. And I have one. Stevie's got a small that I think she got from Kerry Watson, so she's got one now.
Nice.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
So this is one of those moments that sticks in your mind, but are there any other announcing moments that like you lay awake at night?
Not really. No, not really. I pronounce people's names wrong a lot. And I try not to. Obviously, I'm not like, I don't get up at the beginning of the race, and I'm like, I'm gonna mess with this guy. And typically those people have like either 17 consonants or like 5 vowels, and that's like it. And I don't know how to pronounce like Bu Quamzo. His name is spelled KVOMSO. And I was like, Cavasmo.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank God for guys like Rogan.
Right. And
Rovic's, just call him Rovik.
Right. And he's cool as hell, too, because I can, like he pulled me aside and was like, okay, so here's this, and my name is Rovik, and do you know why they call me Rovik? And it's because he was born at the Royal Victorian Hospital.
Yeah.
And so...
See, Rovik, I didn't know that. Now I do.
I mean, there you go. Like, great. I love it. But the people that get really upset about it, like, and they message me, like, death threats nearly. Like, I can't believe that you called my Buick a Chevrolet, and my last name is Chancellor and not Chancellor. And, I'm like, great. Sorry, dude. I mean, my bad. So that like, you don't think that stuff gets you, but that stuff gets you a little bit once in a while. And like, it's like anything, like you're going to have critics, and especially when you're on a stage that's got a lot of people on the other end of it. And especially if they've got feedback, they're going to give their feedback, whether you want it or not. And, luckily I've been pretty blessed to have most of my feedback be pretty positive, but occasionally it's bad. And like, I'm never going to come back to race week because, and I'm like, dude, I mean, again, that's the worst thing you had happen to you today is someone called your Buick a Chevrolet. Like, that sucks, man. Like, yeah, I mean,
and let's keep
you're
in mind,
really in it.
It's still a GM product.
Right. And it looks, and on top of that, like, if you look at where I look at the vantage point of cars, it's from the rear.
Yeah.
I don't typically get to see the front or the side of cars. So I have to figure out what a car is by the back of it.
Yeah.
And like, that seems easy until you do it. Yeah. And like, there are differences between cars sometimes, but like a 66 and a 67 Fairlane is a taillight difference.
Pretty
much.
That's
like it. I mean, that's pretty much it. But if you call a 67 Fairlane's dude a 66, he'll call you on that shit.
Yeah. And
what he should do is let not call you on it.
Yeah.
Right.
Just do like Rovik. Give the announcer a little bit of information if you want.
And I mean, really, that's the best way. I mean, well, let's just talk about it. Come up to the tower. Like, you can do that. That's okay. Yeah. I promise you. I may tell you to I may give you the 1 second because I'm talking, because that's how I make my money is with my mouth. So when I
$20
stop,
$20, Adam
that's
Dorey.
Right. So when I stop talking, I can talk to you, and you can tell me I'm butchering your name, and you can tell me, you can phonetically spell it for me or whatever. And typically I won't mess that up from there forward, but that's okay. You can do that. And most announcers are cool with that as well. Like, especially if you're messing their name up, go to the tower and go talk to them real quick. They're fine with that. And especially my new deal, like I spend with Sick Week, I'm doing pit interviews and on the road interviews and things like that. And that one's a little easier because I can just say, hi, tell me your name.
Right.
I don't need to know your name. I don't need to pronounce your name.
Yeah.
You can do both of those things.
How convenient.
When I'm in the tower, it's not like I'm going to run down after you get done doing your burnout and knock on your window and say, hey, is this 520 or is it 522 cubic inches? I can't remember from your last rebuild how big your motor is.
It's 1,000 cubic inches, Adam. Get it right.
Right. It is 1,000. It's a damn 1,000 cube pro mod.
That's right.
Do you take notes, Adam?
I do. Yes and no. Okay. Yes and no. I do at smaller events. At Dragon Drives, I tend not to. it's just too much. There's so
Yeah.
much going on.
Because you'd be
However,
looking for your note. Well, where did I
constantly
write?
looking through my notes trying to figure out what's going on. So typically I announce with coming into tonight, this happened. And a lot of tracks, typically our home track, will actually put all of the time cards into their computer system. And like, especially Bandamere and people like that have people that do that. If the time cards are in the computer system with names and it's in a database, it'll bring up previous runs from that night on the bottom. So it'll rack them by time, but not by ET, but like when you ran. So his first run was this, his second run was this, his third run was this. So I can use I use a spreadsheet at Race Week. So I use the same spreadsheet that the ladies use to put in all the information I announce off of. And actually I taught Derek to do that as well. So he does that now at Sick Week. So the results page is what we use to announce by. And you just do a Control F, find the car number, and it'll give you all the information in their previous day's runs. And then if you happen to have one that they have done the extra homework, then you'll have earlier day runs as well. So,
Nice.
But I haven't found it. I tried it. I haven't found it to be helpful for me because I spend too much time digging.
Distracting.
And, a typical drag race pair, no matter how quick the cars are, is 1 minute. So from burnout to stage to drive to turn off the end of the track is about 1 minute. So I need to announce about 45 seconds of that. So if I have 20 seconds of something for each person, each time they come up, then I'm covered. So your name, the kind of car you are, and the class you're in is 5 seconds. So I need to come up with 15 seconds each time. And it's, by the time I would find notes,
Oh, yeah.
my 15 seconds would be over.
Yeah. So I'm curious, like the regimen of Race Week, we think as racers, oh, you have it so easy. But I've seen the reality. You're wrecked at the end of the day. Like, it's a lot of work. So, like, what's your regimen? Like, vitamins, coffee, like, what does that look like for Adam? You do a little exercise in the morning. Like, talk us through your day. You get up and what do you do?
So I'm the first guy there and I'm the last guy to leave. And I have to be. And I see every single quarter miles pass. So I do a lot of, and on top of that, especially Race Week, I'm competing. So we drove the route, and now we have to make it to the track and announce. That's one of the reasons that the Cadillac came in and that it had to be reliable. I have to get there. Otherwise, there's no one even to call cars to the lanes. We don't have enough. Like even like the track people don't know like our run orders or our classes or anything.
Yeah,
so
they're
like,
relying on you.
The show doesn't go on until I get there. Like so I've got to have a reliable car that also goes quick.
Yeah.
So the 6-speed comes in handy for that. But yeah, so I'm the first one there. I'm the last one to leave. And that's if we don't have any problems with our car as well. So that's assuming we get there, we race, and we can drive to the hotel, and we haven't worked on our crap. So, but that said, especially when we don't have drive days, I'm living like you are. I'm eating beef jerky, and I'm eating, Cheetos, and I'm drinking Powerade and crap like that. I'm not a real big energy drink guy. I always think like, oh, I have some, so I like have them available. But I typically don't drink energy drinks. I do drink coffee in the morning, and I like to do that while I drive. I typically drive the routes. Stevie's a better co-pilot than
Navigator.
I am. I am not a very good navigator, and I get like frustrated, and I'm just not that guy. So I'm just like, point me in the right direction, and we'll go.
Yeah.
So I live like you guys do. But yeah, I show up. We start the show. We do the thing. That's where Stevie comes in. She feeds me. So she's kind of taking care of me as we go through this deal. So she keeps me fed, and anytime we have any downtime, I am in the bathroom, and like I'm forcing myself to go because like you're gonna not gonna get this chance, so you gotta
Right.
you gotta go. I did get a little bit from Cliff Parvin.
So that answers my pee bottle question while you're in the tower. Thank you for that.
No pee bottle. Cliff Parvin did lead me in on a little bit of a like announcer kind of inside, and it's insure drinks, like replacement meal replacement drinks.
Yep.
He like lives on those things while he announces. Just because you can get a lot of like pound for pound, a lot of nutrition in just a like quick drink, and he uses more of the higher protein type drinks than the like old people type drinks. But either way, it's vitamins, minerals, calories, fat. It's everything you need to kind of live without needing to chew food. And there's a lot of that where like so race week or any drag and drive. I mean, you're working for 8 hours, pretty much nonstop every day for 5 or 7 days straight. And it's a lot. Like you figure, your regular job, you're working 8 hours, but you're not yammering your jaw the whole time.
Yeah.
Like you got to come up with stuff to say. You got to come up with stuff to kind of keep people entertained and informed. And really an announcer's job is, really it's entertainment. That's all it is.
Yeah.
You could have, a track announcer can announce driver names and cars. The entertainment value is what happens in between that. So a lot of that is just figuring out what to say, when to say, how to say, how much time you're going to have, and what you can, what kind of stories you can fit in that allotted time, and whatever, fill people's minds with either useless or useful information, whatever they deem
they're
it.
getting more and more popular, especially the drag and drive, like with Sick Week and Garrett's company, live streaming and the big screen, and it's getting just more and more popular. So
and that Project Prime he's the guy that has the big screen. I didn't know he was really familiar to me, but we started talking. Do you guys remember a few years back on Race Week that BMW that had the camera?
Oh, yes,
yeah,
the black one.
That's him. Same dude.
Very cool.
Excellent.
So he's just upped his game a whole bunch, and he owns the company and owns the big screen, and then contracts out to Garrett. That dude might be the smartest dude on the planet.
That's smart. Yeah, that's smart. So speaking of guys like Garrett and the guy you just mentioned, who do you look up to?
Oh man, and
we can keep it in the confines of announcers because
announcing wise are my first year announcing when we were at Douglas, we got the chance to do an NHRA Open. To run an NHRA national event, you have to have grade points, and it's basically just you've raced at enough races leading up to this national event to prove that you're worth racing at the national event. So you have to either go, it has to be an NHRA sanctioned kind of thing. And the lowest level of one of those is an Open. So Douglas had an Open a couple of weeks prior to the national at Vandermeer, in whenever the hell I was doing this, 2010 or whatever. And it was our first kind of big race that Douglas had hosted for quite a long time. And Bob Fry showed up. And Bob Fry showed up with ESPN. And if you guys don't know, Bob Fry was an announcer for NHRA for a long time. And his voice is synonymous in my eyes as a little kid with NHRA racing. It was always his voice. And he's just sort of got that nerdy kind of persona to him. And he's like Loans. He's just an encyclopedia of what is happening. But he showed up at Douglas, and it was I grew up listening to that cat, and I was like, I'm just this announcer at this the only track in Wyoming, and I'm I was probably high, and oh great, Bob Fry's here, that's great, Perfect. And so I just announced, and I was like, whatever, man. And that dude came up to the booth, and he was like, you're doing a fantastic job. Here's a couple of pointers. And I was like, and he's like, do you mind if I announce for a second? And I was like, are you, yeah,
You're
go.
about to cry.
Yeah.
Oh my God, please. So there's a picture of me somewhere, and I'm sitting, like, staring at him. Like, and he's a short dude. I'm a short dude, but he's a short dude. He might be 5'3",
Oh, wow.
like, short dude. So when he was announcing, he was kneeling on a chair so that he could see the cars at the starting line. And he said he did that like through almost all of his NHRA announcing. He
Wow.
kneeled on a chair
Wow.
to be able to see the starting line, which is crazy. But so Bob Fry is answer number one. That dude, for me, is announcer. And then Loans is. I mean, come on, man. That dude,
He's awesome.
for current, is the pinnacle and maybe ever.
Well, and he backs it up with that awesome podcast with like just that.
It's
the research he does to do that is so awesome.
And so I'm behind the times here, fellas. I'll be the first to admit to you. I'm behind the times on the podcast world. I have been catching up on Dorkomotive, and I love it. I flew to Sick Week, and that was my first. I was like, I'm gonna download podcasts, and I want to make this my thing because I now have a podcast, and you guys have a podcast, and everyone's got a podcast. But I'm late to the game on the podcast of listening to these things, and my God, Dorkomotive is so good.
Yeah,
so good.
Yeah.
Vinny Dename, the funny car driver that was in the mob,
Yeah.
and
That was a
stole Don Prudhomme's car and truck and was racing with it like the next week or 2 weeks later, and you could make out Don Prudhomme's name
Such a
in the
gangster,
paint.
yeah.
In the paint, you could still see his name,
Yeah.
but you didn't dare ask him about it because he'd kill you. Like, no shit,
Well,
kill
he's
you.
a mobster, yeah.
Yeah, he killed something like 7 people or something like that.
Yeah.
And, whatever. Like, but holy cow. That's been my new kind of like pump me up to go to races. So when I'm flying out, I'm listening to the Dorkomotive because, it's just so good. And that guy is, he's the pinnacle right now. And like I said, maybe ever. Like, I think you'd make an argument for him for being the GOAT in this world. And it's kind of cool to be able to actually hear him announce you as well. It's sort of the same like Bruce Kamada sort of thing for me.
Yeah.
Watching Drag Week stuff, and he's making fun of me for having a Landau top on my car. And, like that's because I'm a man of means. It doesn't get any fancier than a Landau top.
That's right. That's right.
So, yeah, that's and I think that's kind of where I got a little bit more of my, zany announcing is realizing that you can be the greatest announcer that lives, but still be funny and entertaining and kind of poking fun at these dudes at the same time. And I get a little bit of that. Like at Sick Week this year, they gave away driven racing oil to everyone that got last place in their class. So I was like, hey, great job sucking. Like, here's some oil. And like, that's just kind of fun to like, some guys like, did you just tell me like, great job sucking? I'm like, didn't you get last? Like, here's some oil. Great job.
Yeah.
You suck. Go sit down.
That's awesome.
Like,
That's awesome.
but like, that's it's kind of cool to be able to sort of poke fun at people and again, like that level of people and going up to Tom Bailey and giving him shit. And that's a different thing. And especially with a microphone and camera in your hand, because he's not going to slap you in public right in front of God and everybody. So you can kind of say whatever you want, and he almost has to go along with it, which is pretty fun.
That is hilarious.
Give you this power.
Right.
Well, is it time?
TKO?
I think so.
Did they did Travis give you the heads up on the one question?
So he did, but
we're not going to get there yet. But
I was eating, so I haven't actually even seen it. So I'm gonna actually pull it up real quick.
Okay. Well, the first few are going to be easy. Then you can think about this one as we get to it. You want to start it off, Rich?
Sure. First car you owned or modified?
Okay. The very first one I owned, and this will prove that I tried, Bill. I tried hard. It was a 71 Ford Mustang. 351 Cleveland 2-barrel.
Oh, Cleveland. I have a real soft spot for Cleveland's.
Yep. FMX automatic and a 9-inch. It was a coupe, and it had rust holes big enough that when I locked the keys in the trunk, I could get them out with a claw hammer. I worked all summer to make, I can't remember the exact amount, but like $1,255. And I bought that car for $1,000. And I was 14 when I bought that car, and my stepdad drove it home and was like, "You are an absolute moron. What in the hell are you doing?" So I never drove that car legally, but I did drive that car through mud pits and all sorts of just stupid crap, and ended up parting that car out and made a ton of money on that car eventually. It sat in my garage and tried to kill me a handful of times and whatever. First car I ever modified was my Monza, and I actually own that car. I sold it when I bought my house. I rebought it, and it is at Vince Ruby's place getting an 850 cage and a mini tub as we speak.
Nice.
My first car was a 77 Buick Skyhawk. What year is your Monza?
It's an 80.
Oh yeah, so exactly the same body.
Same exact car. Yeah, same exact car.
Nice.
And that was a my buddy Steve Wolf had that car, and we got a Malibu wagon, a 79 Malibu wagon, and we took the 350 and 350 out of it and put it in the Monza, and he let me take it up to high school drags at Vandermeer, and it did its first run. It did a 300-foot one tire fire burnout and ran like 1660 or something like that.
And you were the coolest
we ended up getting that car with a huge concrete block in the right rear and an RV helper shock spring that didn't have anything for the shock or the spring actually to seat against in the top except the trunk floor. So it didn't really do a lot. But ended up getting that car to run like in the 14s, and it was a fun little car, and it was a low buck. I paid my rent street racing that car a handful of times, and yeah, it was a fun car. And then, like anything, it got out of control. I put a roll bar in it. It had like a big raunchy cam, and you couldn't drive it anymore. And it wouldn't pass emissions, and yeah, so I ended up letting it go, and then I ended up rebuying that same car back for like $165, and so now I'm putting $10K in it because I'm a moron.
That makes total sense. I mean, I get it.
Yeah, and it's even after all the $10K work is done, it's worth about $3,500.
Perfect.
So
Perfect.
Yeah, take advice from me on hot rodding cars.
That sounds perfect. Okay, so let's slam this TKO into second gear. So, Adam, what in your opinion has been the biggest technology change to move our sport forward?
Oh my God, like overall ever?
In your opinion?
Fuel injection, period. This fastest street car stuff will be, you'll see. I mean, a lot of these cars are still mechanically injected and stuff like that. And I mean, they're quick and they're doing a lot of cool stuff on methanol, but you could never drive that crap on the street. Fuel injection is and especially aftermarket flavor fuel injection has opened so many doors to so much stuff to do what we're doing with these cars these days. There's no way Rich could do what he's doing with a carburetor in his car. It just wouldn't happen.
He tried.
I did the first year, and the third year, I think it was, I think even the third year, and then I met Blasco, and it was all uphill or downhill from there.
I was going to say that's
It's a hill.
That's
It was a hill. Yeah. Could have been icy hill.
yeah, but I mean, fuel injection overall in the stick world. I mean, all the clutches, so much cool clutch stuff. Even in the past like 5 years, for anything for street stuff, like I mean, just and it's come with the advent of like a GT 500 and a lot of the like factory race car type stuff. Like you just need to have a clutch that works with big power because like at the Mod Nationals, there's guys with GT 500s that do 4 modifications. They do a E85 kit, a pulley, a drag pack, and shocks, and they trap 160. And
Insane. Hey?
it's like you're cheating. Like, yes, you start with $100,000 car, but you do 4 things to it. And I mean, I listed off $5,000 worth of stuff. That's wicked. I mean, 160 miles an hour is wicked.
Yeah.
So a lot of those cars are stick shift, and so a lot of those cars have to have a decent clutch or some sort of way to put that stuff down. And there's so many people have come out with so many cool clutches in the last few years.
Okay, now the tough question. I can see you reading it there.
Yep.
If you could spend one day with someone, who would it be, and what would you do?
Oh my God. I mean, Bill Armstrong. No.
Well, you'll get one of those soon. Don't worry.
I was gonna say I've done that.
Yeah.
Two thumbs up. Fine holiday fun. Oh man, with one person. So I think I would have said Joe Barry back in the day, but I had Joe Barry on my podcast, and we had a blast. That dude is awesome. And then he actually turned the tides on me and interviewed me for my own podcast for one of the episodes. And that was fun. It was really fun to chop it up with Joe Barry. And if you guys don't, like, Joe Barry's got the 56. He's got the creamsicle. It's a 6-second car. It had a Lenco in it with a clutch for a long, long, long time. And he put an automatic in it because he thought it would be easier. And he hates it because it's never been as quick as it did with a clutch and a Lenco. So
we need to write that down, Rich. We need to have him on.
Yeah, you do, and he'll tell you he's gonna put a clutch and Lenco back in that car because he just wants to have more fun with that car.
Yeah,
and it's the automatics made it brake less crap, but he's like, I don't have any fun in the car. Like it's just not as much fun to take it out and go slower than I was with a clutch in it. So
yeah.
So I would have said him a long time ago, but I had him on my podcast. So I think now it's another one that I want to have on my podcast, but it's got to be Larry Larson.
Yeah.
And he's sort of he's sort of the Pope, and he's been through a lot of this drag and drive type stuff. He's done a lot of the no prep Kings type stuff, but a lot of his early drag and drive stuff was also with a clutch and a Lenco. So it's just a different thing to talk to a dude that's had a car at the top with a clutch pedal in it, and being able to talk to him about all of his stuff and what led him into why in the hell he's also an idiot like us.
I remember the first time I put my car on the 2-step, like when it started getting rowdy and people were over, they're rushing over because they thought Larson was running because that car on the 2-step was rowdy as.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'm still nowhere near the noise level that he was making, but it was similar.
Right.
But yeah, that Nova his was just amazing.
It's just such a different thing. And then, I mean, to have the first sort of purpose-built unlimited truck or car, which he did in 14, and may or may not have been cheating on that, but still brought the first purpose-built drag and drive thing. Here it is.
Yeah.
That's stuff that no one else can say they have.
He's a smart dude.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. 4th gear. What influences you to build your car or cars?
I mean, Bill Armstrong has I mean, that ain't no shit. I mean, when I took the automatic out of my car and I put the manual in it, that had Bill Armstrong stamped right on the top of it. I mean, that was. I think Bill heard that I hurt the transmission of my car, and he was like calling me, like, "Hey, like a T56 is this and this and this," and it's got, I was like, I can't afford that, and then it turns out I can afford it, so here we are. But no, for real, Bill's been a big help, and back in the day, Bill lived about 40 minutes from my front door, which if you know where Bill is, Bill's 40 minutes from everywhere. So I mean, to be 40 minutes from me and also 40 minutes from anywhere is pretty. I mean, that's pretty good from Bill's place. So yeah, we kind of started partying, and the stick shiftiness rubbed off on me. So that's the main reason that the Malibu is stick shift, and probably the reason why I was started looking for a stick shift Cadillac eventually.
Well, I wasn't expecting that answer, but cool. That's cool.
Drink.
Okay, and we're gonna bang her into fifth gear. Hopefully, we didn't lose it on third gear because it was a TKO. What, in your opinion, is the secret to stick shift racing?
You got to overbuild your shit. I kind of put in initially a kind of like round number of 2 seconds. So if your car runs 1050, your drivetrain is the equivalent of an 850 automatic car, or should be. Otherwise, you're going to rattle that stuff to death. I think that changes a little bit as you get lower in power and higher in power. So it's like a bit of a bell curve. But sort of where I live, like an 1150 car, I've got 950 sort of stuff in my car. So I've got like all the big 1350 joints and none of the 1330s or 1310s. I've got 35 spline axles and all. You need to have your stuff set up and ready to be able to do way quicker than what you're currently doing. And that's really it. I mean, otherwise you're just not going to have a very good time. And one of the things that also really resonates with me a lot after my trip to Drag Week on a credit card is something that Matt Frost said. And it's don't race on credit. Like ever, 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 ever. Because you'll break your shit by the time it's the bill, before the bill comes due, before you have it paid off. And now you'll be paying for it twice. And odds are good you still don't have money for it and you're back on credit. So
yeah.
There's nothing wrong with racing whatever speed you're racing if you're doing it within your means. I think that's what's so cool about a lot of the drag and drive stuff going to like dial your own, and with the index classes getting down to like 14 flat, like you can bring something. Like something is going to work in your budget. You don't need to have an 850 street stick car. You can still have a 13-second car and
still
have as much fun.
Get yourself an orange helmet. Yep.
Right, exactly. I mean, the dude that won
two of them, Red.
Yeah. Dude that won DYO won the same exact helmet you won. So, and that car could have been a 13-second car that had zero problems through the week. It's just, just race within your means. And that it's okay if your friends are faster than you, you can still go and root them on and be friends with them. That's cool. And if they want to race with cubic dollars, it's more fun to watch from this side.
Yeah. Ow.
Ouch. So I think we'll slide it into sixth gear, but I think you just answered that question and didn't even know it. And that is, what advice would you give to someone getting into this sport?
I mean, I've written a couple of articles for Sick the Mag. I'm an English guy, so I write as well. So one of them is just do it. Just show up. There's a ton of stuff to do at a drag strip. Like if you show up with a car and you tell the person at the gate, like, I have no idea what I'm doing, they will help you. I promise you. Like, they want to have you there. They'll teach you exactly what to do, and you're going to get the shit kicked out of you in whatever you do. And it's fine. Like, but just go and do it and go have fun with it and like treat it as what it is. And like, you know, I mean, you can drag race for a day for $50. There's not a whole lot of stuff you can do for a day for $50 anymore.
Not anymore. No.
You know, so I mean, if you've got a full tank of gas already in your car, and I've done this before, like driving past Vandermeer, like I've got a tank of gas and I'm in my Honda CRX and it's import day. Let's go check that out. And then I like semifinal or run it up or something, just cause like I just showed up. Like, who just show up, go do it. Try it out. It's so much fun. It's just such a different thing, and spectating it is cool. But once you get out and do it, and even in a slow car, like, you're gonna have the most fun ever. So just show up and do it. And that I say that because I wrote an article in Sick the Mag that was just do it. Like, and it was the same deal with Drag and Drive. Like, don't talk about doing it next year. Like, sign up to one and go do it, and the rest will work itself out because you're gonna love it. I promise you.
And you'll meet your new best family members.
Right. I mean, it's wild. It's wild. And you all of a sudden you're in this fraternity and you have friends literally worldwide. Literally worldwide. Like, people from Australia constantly are like, hey, can someone go check out this car? So I'm just going to fly in and buy this car. And that happens. Like, people actually do that for people that they have maybe either never met or met once or whatever. Like, the amount that people will go through to help you in this like small little fraternity of drag and drive people, and there's like 40 of them or something this year.
It's crazy. But
there's still, I think, still less people that do this than climb Everest every year. So when you kind of, again, it's perspective. When you put it in perspective, like, there's about 400 or 500 people that do drag and drives kind of consistently, and that number might be 800. But I mean, think about how many people are in the United States or in the United States and Canada. I mean, it's such a fraction.
Billions, yeah.
I mean, it's such a fraction of the amount of people that still do this. And like, yes, there's a lot of them, and yes, it's less like sexy than it used to be. Like, oh my God, you have a drag week car? Whoa. Like, you used to be the jam. But it's still pretty effing sexy. Like, it's wild. When you go to a racetrack and you've got a window banner, how many people will be like, that thing's street legal? Like, yeah, dude, it totally is. And I drove it here.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, what? And I'm talking just me. And I only have an 11-second car. But like, I drove my car to the racetrack and it was like, yeah, you know, it's whatever. And it runs this. And like, 3 people were like, what? Wait, what? You drove an 11-second car, like 200 miles here to race it, and you're going to drive it home? And I was like, yeah, and it gets like 20 miles a gallon.
Or you drive your 8-second car 3,000 miles, win, and then drive it home.
But I don't have that sort of, you know, I can't lay that one on the table, but you know, I for sure can lay 200 miles and 1150 on the table, which again is not the typical dude. Even a dude with like an 850 car that's a normal like a whatever, super gas car or something like that. Like, they're looking over at you going, dude, what? You're the coolest dude here. And like, you may not even know it yet, but like, Rich is always the coolest dude there.
Pretty much.
But
pretty much, yeah.
You know, like a dude like me can be the coolest dude there every once in a while.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know, just go do it and don't race on credit. And something that on my podcast, I have a kind of a similar question, and it's, you know, what advice do you give to newbies? And I had a really, really good answer from Clint Sadowski. And actually it was Jim Parkinson with Tuned by JP. And he said, go get your dream car. Don't beat around the bush and get a Fox Mustang or whatever, just because that's what you can get. Go get the best version of your dream car you can afford and build it, because you're going to love it way longer. And I never even thought about that. Like,
yeah, that was a good answer. Yeah.
Just building a car is one thing, but building your car is a whole different deal.
Awesome. Well, Adam, this has been fantastic. And you did the intro, but I think I'll take the outro. How's that?
Great. Love it.
All right. So, as always, huge thanks to Stick Shift Nation for hosting this podcast. And as always, you can find Clutch Burners on all the podcast platforms and YouTube, which is where you'll see all our beautiful faces. And please go to stickracing.com, pick up a Stick Shift Nation hat, sticker, t-shirt, whatever. And also you can get a Clutch Burner shirt there too. And then Adam, go ahead and plug your social media stuff, your podcast, Insta,
totally,
all that. Go for it.
I am at Adam Dorey on YouTube. Same kind of setup. I actually do my podcast live, and then I post the podcast later. So you can watch it real time if you want to kind of keep up on the latest greatest, or you can download older stuff as it kind of comes available. I only bought the plan that gives me so much data, so I'm poor and I don't have a job anymore. So I'm uploading what I can when I can. But I think I've got 13 episodes on podcasts. Same deal. You can get it anywhere you get your podcasts. It's hosted on Blueberry, BLUBRRY, but it's also simulcast to Apple and Spotify and all those. So
nice.
You can check that out. It's That's Cool Drink. And I'm really getting into a lot of history with especially drag and drive type folks, why they have the car that they have and why they actually drive it on the street, what led them to that. And it's been really fun to kind of see backgrounds of people. And like I had Clint Sadowski on last week, and he's a Major League Baseball pitcher, and like hearing a lot of his growing up as a gearhead and also a pitcher. Like he's still got his Monte Carlo that he had in high school. It's just really cool to get into the background. So at Adam Dorey on YouTube, you can watch the live version, or again, That's Cool Drink on any of your platforms. I'm on Insta as Quickie70. So at Quickie70, Quickie 70. That's a homage to my old 70 Firebird. That was a blown alcohol car when I first got it, and I parted the blown alcohol stuff off of it and just bracket raced it as a carbureted big block car for a while. It was a fun car, but the license plate said Quickie, so whatever.
It's awesome.
And you can find me on Facebook. I'm doing that. I'm not really a big TikTok type of dude. Can't really figure out the old TikToks, and I've got a Twitter that I've never been on I don't think I've been on it in 5 years, but I'm Mile High Outlaw on Twitter. Don't X me. I don't really use the X.
All right, Adam. Well, this has been awesome.
Super fun. I need to have you guys on mine as well. And yeah, I think it'd be fun to hear kind of your backstory on the Fairlane, especially. Like I've heard a little bit of the GTO one, and it's just like, well, I just want this car. But the Fairlane is got some history, I think. So I think it'd be fun to have you guys on, and we'll do trading podcasts.
Cool. Well, that'd be awesome.
Heck yeah, and you have to drink on mine. So since Rich doesn't normally drink, we'll have to get him additionally drunk.
Perfect.
It's gonna be awesome. But guys, seriously, thank you guys for having me on. This has been super cool. Thanks for pimping the announcing stuff and whatnot. That's it's been a cool deal for me, and I'm kind of throwing it out there, and we're gonna see what kind of comes back. And I'm not gonna get rich doing this. There ain't no way. But if I can pay my bills, that's probably good enough. So hopefully we get the calendar filled, and I know I'm going to see you guys at a bunch of stuff this
awesome.
season here.
Well, don't hang up yet, but
not good.
Good, Rich.
Yep. All right. Thanks again. It's awesome.
All right. We'll close it out.
Absolutely.
Over and out.